The ear is divided into three systems: outer ear, middle ear, and inner ear. So we deal with the outer ear first. So let me draw the right ear. This is the right ear. Okay. So this part is called pinna. This is called pinna, and this is called tragus. And here there is a ear canal. Okay. So remember, the ear canal is S-shaped. It is not as straight like that. That's why when we have to do some ear checkups, when we need to put something, we have to pull the pinna. We have to pull the pinna so that we make the ear canal straight. It is, remember, it is S-shaped. Okay. So ear canal is around 2.5 centimeter long, around 1 inch. Okay. And the outer 1/3, this is the cartilage part. And the inner 2/3, this part is the bony part. Okay. And what is there at the other end of the ear canal? There is the tympanic drum. It is the tympanic membrane. Okay, or tympanic drum. So this is called tympanic membrane. So when we say about external ear or outer ear, we are talking about from pinna to the tympanic membrane. So this portion is the outer ear, or the outer portion of the ear, okay, or external ear. Alright. So anything that happens in this part, it deals with the external conditions. Okay, we call it otitis externa. Means infection of external part of the ear. Otitis externa. So what is present in the external ear canal? Along with that, there are some glands, apocrine glands. In this cartilage part, there are some apocrine glands. What is called apocrine glands. And what they do? They secrete cerumen. They secrete cerumen, what we call as wax. So they secrete cerumen, or we simply call as wax. Okay. So outer ear, that is pinna and the tragus. Then the ear canal, which is S-shaped. Okay. It's around 1 inch long or 2.5 centimeter long, which is an outer cartilaginous part, 1/3, and inner 2/3 is the bony part, and it is S-shaped, and this part is attached to the tympanic membrane. Right. So this part is external ear. Any infections here, or when there is infection of the external ear, we call it the otitis externa. Most common cause of infection of the external ear or cause of otitis externa is swimming. Okay, that's why this is otitis externa is also called a swimmer's ears. Very common in 7 years to 12 years age group. Swimmer's ears, very common. So what happens in swimmer's ears? There is prolonged swimming. Okay, when there is swimming for a long time, then there can be infections in there. So to develop a otitis externa here, we need two things. So we need bacteria. Most common cause is bacteria, though there is fungus also. So we need bacteria, and then skin degradation. There is some friendly bacteria also. Normal bacteria also sometimes reside here. But if you hurt the skin while piercing the skin, while cleaning your ear canal, if you damage it, then also you can have infections. We need two things, remember. We need bacteria. We need skin degradation. One of the very common condition is that when you go for a bath or you go for swimming, after swimming, if you use any earbuds, that's very dangerous. Because after prolonged swimming, the ear skin around here is very, very soft. At that time, if you are using some earbuds to clean the ears, it can degrade the skin, it can damage the skin. And if you damage the skin in the ear canal, even friendly bacteria can also, the normal bacteria which are present here, they can also cause infections. So that's why the protocol is that whenever you have to clean your ears, you should always do it at dry conditions, not when your ears canals are wet, just like soon after taking shower or after coming from swimming. You have cleaning your ear canals with a earbud, that's very dangerous. That can cause otitis externa, where there is pus coming out. There is a pus coming out. There will be infections that develops coming with pus and severe earache. Okay, so that is one thing that is results in or that causes in otitis externa. So treatment is here. Basically, we give ear drops, which cause antibacterial, antibiotic ear drops. And one thing to be noted also, if you continuously give if the antibiotic ear drops is given for more than a week, then also it is a problem, because there are also some friendly fungus here. Okay, and then those fungus can also have a growth. They can also multiply. If you're removing the balance between the bacteria and the fungus. So by giving antibacterial ear drops, which has basically some antibiotic ear drops which has lot of steroid also. Most of the ear drops have steroids plus antibiotics. So that can actually disturb the normal immune condition and can increase the fungal growth also. Then also there can be fungal infection also. So whatever the things, so there is main thing is that we have to keep it dry. Okay, we have to keep it dry. So use of earplugs also, constantly use of earplugs, it can also make it moist and humid and can cause ear infections. That's why overhead or headphones are better than earplugs. That is also one thing. So whatever be the condition, there can be pus, there can be earache, and there can be reduce of the sound. Sound cannot go here. So that can be sort of conductive deafness, because sound cannot be conducted. So that type of deafness is called conductive deafness. Conductive deafness. So deafness is because of the low conduction of the sound. So we call it conductive deafness. So these are the conductive deafness. Otitis externa is associated with the external ear. Okay. So if you have any questions, you can ask me. Now I am going to the middle ear. Now let's go to the middle ear. Now after the tympanic membrane, here there is 3 bones. Okay, we call this MIS. 3 bones. M for malleus. Second is incus. Third is stapes. These are the 3 bones, or we call ossicles. Together we call them ossicles. Together we call them ossicles. So there are 3 ossicles here. So this part, at the center of the tympanic membrane, it is attached to the handle of the malleus. So this is the handle of malleus. Then it is attached to the another bone called incus. And then this is attached to the foot plate. This is the steps. Okay. So this is one box like kind of thing. Okay. So this box is called middle ear. This box is called middle ear. So middle ear is composed of the tympanic membrane on this side, the other side of the tympanic membrane. There are 3 ossicles, malleus, incus, and steps. This steps is it's like a hockey stick. It has a foot plate. So where it ends on the what we call here. This is the oval window. Oval window. Okay. And another thing of the middle a part of the middle ear is there is an opening here. So this tube is called eustachian tube. Eustachian tube. Or auditory tube. So this tube, where it ends in the nasopharynx. It ends in the nasopharynx. Okay. So this is the nose. It ends in the nasopharynx. From the inside, it ends in the nasopharynx. Okay. It ends in the nasopharynx. So middle ear is connected to the nose through this open tube. You see, it's connected to the nose through this open tube. So what does that mean? It means the middle ear constantly maintain the pressure between here. We need this middle ear to remain elevated, to remain open through this air. That's why when we swallow or when you yawn, when you open a mouth, air also goes to the ears and it makes the ears open. Okay, otherwise it remains like tight. Then we can't hear anything. Okay, like you going down or going to high pressure or low pressure, like going to a takeoff. Okay, then what happens? Because of the change in the pressure, it becomes very stiff. Then we need to open it. Then how we open? We yawn or we swallow or like chewing a gum. So every time we chew a gum or we swallow or yawn, air goes from here down here and it pops up. It opens it up and immediately again sound can travel. So that eustachian tube, it maintains the pressure. It maintains the pressure in this middle ear cavity, in this middle ear. Okay. So middle ear is composed of tympanic membrane, 3 ossicles, malleus, incus and steps, which attach to the oval window from here. So this part is inner ear. We will not go into it now. Okay, this part is the middle ear. So middle ear is then connected to the nasopharynx through this auditory tube or eustachian tube. Okay, through this tube. Another thing is that's why most of the time, sometimes children especially, they complain of earache or complain of something decrease in sound like deafness kind of thing. Then it is all because of the nasopharynx infection. If there is any pharyngeal infection, then mucus can go this side and plug it. Okay, mucus can go this side and it blocks the eustachian tube. As a result, middle ear stops functioning. Then also you cannot hear properly. So if you have a lot of cough here in your nose and it is the sputum or the mucus is going this way and it is blocking the eustachian tube, then also it will affect your hearing capacity. Okay, and also important point to note that in children this tube is more horizontal and this tube is short. Okay, so because of the shorter eustachian tube and horizontal eustachian tube, children are more prone to have middle ear infections due to upper respiratory tract infections. They are more prone to have earache because of respiratory tract infections. Okay, this is the connection between the respiratory tract and the ears. Okay, because of the shorter tube, that is often asked in 1 mark question. Because the children have short eustachian tube and horizontal, it will be more horizontal in children's. So they have more chances of developing earache due to middle ear infections due to upper respiratory tract infections. So when in children, it's very common that if they are coughing, if they are sneezing, they are having cold, they are having cough, sputum, then the ears are also blocked. Okay, that's very common. So if you if they let the children gargle or clean the throat, then ear will also become okay. Okay, because there is a connection. So that is why also sometimes soon after taking a heavy meal in babies, we should always keep them barb. We barb them. We don't keep the babies immediately after meal. We should not put them in the bed because milk can go this way. Milk can go this way and it can cause infection there, middle ear infections. So middle ear infections is called otitis media. Otitis media, which is very much connected to the respiratory tract infections. Remember that. So middle ear is connected to upper respiratory tract and it can cause infection because of this. So it is otitis media. So when you say otitis media, it means middle ear infections. And when you say outer ear infections, we call this otitis externa. Alright. Now there is 2 things to be noted in this whole thing. Okay. So first concept is here impedance matching. Impedance matching. So this was about the anatomy. Now let's go for some physiology here. Now let's say the sound waves are going. Okay, there is a sound wave coming in. So sound wave is going through the ear canal and hitting the tympanic membrane. Now the physiology is the tympanic. Now if you have to imagine the tympanic membrane, it is a tensed membrane. It is very membrane which is tight. It's just like the outer cover of the speaker. If you visualize the speaker, you see there is the outer thin film which vibrates. The same thing, same logic here. So this is a thin membrane which is very tensed. Okay. So anatomically it is made tense because of the two muscles here, tensor tympani muscles. Okay. So because the tensor tympani muscle, it holds the tympanic membrane, it pull it and it makes it taut. It makes it tight. So when the sound waves hit the tympanic membrane, it vibrates. It vibrates. So when it vibrates, this malleus bone vibrates. When the malleus vibrates, incus vibrates. When incus vibrates, the steps bone vibrate. And when this bone vibrates, then we'll discuss in the inner ear, there are fluids here. Okay? There are fluids here. So this fluid will cause a ripple. There will be a wave kind of created in this fluid in the inner ear. We will not go into the inner ear right now. Let me finish the middle ear. So when there will be vibration in the inner ear, then there will be action potential generated and there is a hearing, we hear it. Okay. So means what? First thing is that we need the fluid is here, should be vibrated. There should be wave. There should be wave kind of thing. Okay. There should be wave kind of thing. So until and unless this fluid don't vibrate, there is no action potential generated here. Means we cannot hear. Sound need to go to the brain. Okay. So you see here there is a sound is traveling here. It's hitting the tympanic membrane and this malleus incus bone steps hitting and it's hitting the oval window and is passing that force towards the fluid. So medium of air medium and fluid medium. Two medium is there, right? Now we need a good vibration in this fluid. So if you notice here, you see the tympanic membrane, it is around 55 square millimeter. And if you see the oval window, it is just 3 square millimeter. 3 square millimeter. What I am trying to say here, the force that is coming, it is vibrating the tympanic membrane. And we need an equal amount of force here also. But you see the size here. This is the tympanic membrane and this is the oval window. So much of the energy is lost. Much of the energy that is created, vibration power is lost because of the surface area, less surface area here. Okay, that is called impedance. To overcome this problem, in our middle ear there are 3 bones. So when they vibrate, when this tympanic membrane vibrate, this middle ear, the handle of malleus, it vibrates in more. It vibrates in more than its capacity. Then incus vibrates and the steps muscle also vibrates in such an increasing manner that whatever is lost, it is again compensated by this movement of this steps muscle. Okay, so that gaining of this extra again means gaining of that loss of the vibrations by these ossicles is called impedance matching. It tries to match. So basically what does the middle ear do? Middle ear in physiology of hearing, they do impedance matching. Because of that, here you see tympanic membrane is big in size. It is almost 17 times bigger than the oval window. We need a good vibration in oval window so that it can vibrate the fluid here. It can vibrate the fluid here. Okay. But because of the difference in the surface area, these ossicles, they tries to compensate by vibrating in a good amount of force, by vibrating in a high force. Okay. So they act as a lever system. They act as a lever system. So there are 3 bones, but they act as one. Whenever a sound, it hits the tympanic membrane, the whole thing, this lever system, malleus, incus and steps, they vibrate in such a high note that it creates the same amount of energy here. Same amount of energy that was coming here, it creates the same amount of energy here, so that the fluid can move on the inner ear. And so the sound can be generated. So the sound can be traveled from ears to the brain. Okay. So that is the main function of middle ear. So what is the main function of middle ear? Is the impedance matching. Alright. So second is the pressure. It maintains the pressure. Middle ear has to maintain the pressure by the eustachian tube. It maintains the pressure. That's why when we go up, when we take off, often we find that our ears are blocked because this eustachian tube gets blocked. Then we have to open it, or we have to open the eustachian tube by either yawning or swallowing or by talking or by chewing gums. We have to keep it open so that this thing don't become painful or stiff, so that sound can hear. Okay. This is one quality of middle ear. Another quality of middle ear is what we call attenuation reflex. Attenuation reflex. Now, whenever a loud sound comes, whenever a loud or noisy sound comes, what happens? This tympanic membrane, which is like this, it pouts forward. Means if there is a tympanic membrane, if a loud sound comes, the tympanic membrane here, it will go internally. It will pout internally because of the hitting of the loud noise. So, what will happen? The tympanic membrane will be protruded internally, and at the same time, the steps, the foot plate of steps, it will be withdrawn. It will come externally. So, foot plate of steps, it is pulled. So, foot plate of steps, it will go this way, and tympanic membrane will go this way. So overall, the whole thing, this tympanic membrane, malleus, incus, steps, it becomes, this whole thing becomes very, very rigid, and they don't vibrate. It becomes very rigid. So this rigidity is called attenuation reflex. This, because of this attenuation reflex, it protects the inner ear. We don't want, if something very loud, suddenly something is hit, a loud sound is produced before your ear, we don't want the sound to go to the inner ear and damage everything here. Okay, so we need to protect the inner ear, which is the main organ for hearing. Okay, so we need to protect that. To protect that, every time there is a loud noise suddenly produced, this tympanic membrane go this side, it just pouts up outside, inside, and this steps also come this side, and together they become very, very stiff. They become like if something suddenly someone tries to shock you, some scream, it make your body stiff. So same way, this also behave in the same way. It makes itself stiff. That is called attenuation reflex. So this reflex is a protective reflex. Because of this reflex present in the middle ear, it can protect the inner ear from any sort of loud or noise suddenly produced. Otherwise, it will damage everything. That is one point. Okay. Another thing, because of this attenuation reflex, there is masking of sound. Masking. So, what do you understand? Masking means even in the loud, noisy party, two people can still talk if they concentrate, right? They can still whisper and can hear each other's talk because you can mask the loud noise. So whenever we have to focus on one sound and we are trying to remove, because sound is coming, you cannot remove the sound that is coming, but you can concentrate on one particular sound and you can mask the loud noise. So that is also done by this attenuation reflex. So whenever we try to focus something, we are trying to gossip or tries to whisper something in a loud party, so what we are using the attenuation reflex. We are doing the attenuation reflex, and the loud noise is not going to the inner ear, and it's not making any sound, because after all we hear because of our brain. Okay, the sound is just provided and it is coded and it is sent to the brain. So if during any sort of loud parties when we try to focus on some whispers, then automatically this attenuation reflex occurs and the loud thing don't go that side, and then we can focus on the normal sounds, right? So that is also a beneficiary of the attenuation reflex. So regarding the middle ear, what are the things that you need to know? Middle ear, it maintains the pressure. Then there is impedance matching, and there is then attenuation reflex. So these are the three functions of middle ear. So the most common thing that you have to, the most important point, you should note that there is an eustachian tube. Don't forget. Because every time someone comes with a problem with the hearing or any ear ache, first of all we check his pharynx. If there is any cough or sputum there in the nasopharynx, we ask the patient to say, open the mouth and check if there is sputum there. If you have respiratory tract infections, upper respiratory tract infection, you may have ear ache, you may have problem with hearing. So every time someone comes in problem of hearing, first we make sure the throat is not infected and the throat is cleaned. Okay, that's the basic physiology of it, which you should know. Now going from the middle ear to inner ear. So we know that here there is the oval window, and another thing that is here, this is called round window. Round window. I'll tell you what does the round window means. Okay, so here what happens? Okay, let me make this let me shift this diagram this side. So this is the external ear canal, then tympanic membrane, malleus, incus, and steps. Okay, and here is the eustachian tube. Okay, so now we are going to the inner ear. So in the inner ear, here it's a 2.5 turn. It looks like a shell, and it's called cochlea, which is the organ of hearing. Cochlea. Okay, and what else is not present in the cochlea? In the inner ear, there is another things. There is a semicircular canals, which is called vestibular apparatus. Vestibular apparatus. Today we will not talk about vestibular apparatus. We will discuss it in next class. So they are basically this vestibular apparatus. They are concerned with the balance, our balance and the posture. Okay, this is a vestibular apparatus. This cochlea, okay, this is mainly is the organ of hearing. Okay, so let's go inside see what is in the cochlea. So what is in the cochlea? If you see, if you take a section in the cochlea, you will see that it has 3 chambers like this. Just 3 chambers. It has 3 chambers. Okay. This is called scala tympani. So I have just zoomed once. I have taken a section from here, cut it, and just zooming inside. Okay. This is called scala tympani. This is called scala media, and this is called scala vestibuli. Scala vestibuli. There are 3 compartments in this cochlea. Okay. So what are they? These are fluid. There is fluid here. So when the sound comes and it foot of steps, it hits the oval window. This fluid here, it moves. It makes a wave kind of thing. Okay. But we have to focus here, right? We have to focus here. So here, the scala tympani and the scala media. Okay. So here there is one important thing that's called organ of Corti. So here there is the organ of Corti. This is the receptor for hearing. This is the hearing receptor. Okay, it comes as 1 mark question. Organ of Corti. Where is this organ of Corti? It is present between the scala tympani and scala media. Where is this organ of Corti? This is the receptor for hearing. Where it is present? It is present in the inner ear. Okay. So in addition to that, there are some fibers here, basilar fibers. These are fibers. And here there are some hair cells. Okay, there is some membrane here. It is tentorial membrane, and these are hair cells. Okay, so these cells towards outside, these are outer hair cells, and there are some inner hair cells. Okay, so these are hair cells. So there are some inner hair cells. there are some outer hair cells. So when this fluid vibrates because of the sound wave, so sound wave will first vibrate the tympanic membrane, then it will vibrate these three ossicles, then it will vibrate the fluid inside this cochlea. So when this fluid will vibrate, this basilar fibers will also vibrate. Okay, so these basilar fibers will vibrate. Now when these basilar fibers will vibrate, it will vibrate the outer hair cells. It will vibrate these hair cells. It will just like a like any leaf or sugarcane crop, it will just move. So when this will move, the inner hair cells, they will move. Now what happens when these moves? Okay, when they move, what happens? What's the big deal here? They attach upside down, right? So when they moves, okay, like when these hair cells moves, okay, these hair cells are from the roof of this membrane. Okay, when this moves, there becomes an opening here. There becomes an opening here. So when they move, there became an opening here, and as a result, there is a rushing of sodium ions inside. So what these inner hair cells and outer hair cells do, they code the sound wave. This is a sound wave. For the wave first came through the air, then it came through the fluid, then it moved the hair cells. So when the hair cells moves from the gap, the sodium ions, they goes inside and depolarize the thing. So these are connected to the nerves. They are connected to nerve cells. So as a result, when the sound wave moves the fluid here, it will move the hair cells, and when the hair cells move, they cause depolarization. When there is depolarization, there is development of action potential, and this action potential will then go through these nerves. This nerve is called cochlear nerve. Nerve number 8. Remember, nerve number 8 is composed of vestibulocochlear nerve. Cranial nerve number 8. That is vestibular nerve coming from the vestibular apparatus. Cochlear nerve coming from cochlear apparatus. So vestibulocochlear nerve, that is cranial nerve number 8. So this cochlear nerve is then, like nerve is already there. We just need to put a current here. So action potential then travels through this cochlear nerve. So let's go to the other side now. What happens? So once this sound comes, action potential will develop, and it goes to the action potential will go to this cochlear nerve. So this cochlear nerve, where it goes? It goes to the medulla. Okay, so this cochlear nerve, it will go to the dorsal and ventral cochlear nuclei. It will end up here. It will end up in the dorsal and ventral cochlear nuclei. Okay, you can stop me if you're confused. Huh? The dorsal and ventral cochlear nuclei. These are dorsal and ventral cochlear nuclei. So this dorsal and ventral cochlear nuclei will go to the opposite side. The fibers starting from here, then it will go to the opposite side, and then it will ascend up. Okay, where it will ascend, it will go to the pons. Next is the pons, and they end here in the, this is called superior olivary nucleus. Superior olivary nuclei. Okay, so from the superior olivary nuclei, the fibers will go to the midbrain. This is the midbrain, and it will go to the medial geniculate body. Medial geniculate body. Okay, it will go to the medial geniculate body. Right? From here, it will go to the medial geniculate body. Okay, I start from the down here. We came from this cochlear nerve. It goes to the medulla. Where it enters, it don't enter the spinal cord. Don't be confused. It goes to the medulla. It goes to the superior. It goes to the dorsal and ventral cochlear nuclei. Cross to the opposite side of the medulla, and then ascends up. And most of the fibers, they terminate here in the superior olivary nuclei, where at the level of pons. Then it will go to the midbrain or the brain stem, and ends up in the medial geniculate body. From the medial geniculate body, the next generation of fibers, where it goes to the brain. Okay, it goes to the which part of the brain? From the superior temporal, that is auditory cortex. It goes to the auditory cortex, the hearing area, auditory cortex. Where is this auditory cortex is present? In the superior temporal gyrus. Superior temporal gyrus means what I am saying here. Hold on. So this is the temporal lobe. You see. So this is the temporal lobe. So temporal lobe, here the superior temporal gyrus. So just this gyrus above the temporal lobe. So this superior temporal gyrus, here the auditory fibers will come. Here the cochlear nerve will be coming. Okay. So from here, from inside you see. So the nerve fibers will come this way, goes to the medulla. From the medulla, coming to the medulla here, hearing fibers will come to the medulla, then go to the pons. After medulla, goes to the pons. Pons, then brainstem, here the medial geniculate body in the midbrain. From medial geniculate body, it will go inside here and terminate here, where it will go inside and terminate in the superior temporal gyrus. Terminate in the superior temporal gyrus of temporal lobe. Here is the hearing area. Where is the auditory cortex? It is lying at the superior temporal gyrus. Okay, superior gyrus of the temporal lobe. Superior gyrus of the temporal lobe. Okay.